Today's video is the 10-minute full body stretching routine that you asked for, so here it is. Some of these stretches are going to be static, meaning you just stretch, hold anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. Some of the other stretches are going to be dynamic, not a lot of bouncing per se, but you are going to be moving a little bit. For example, on this first one, what I'm going to do is wide stance, not as wide as I can go, but fairly wide. Like this is shoulder width, and I want maybe twice that. In some martial arts, they call that a horse stance. So what you're going to do is hands on your hips, make big, big circles. Now this warms up the muscles simultaneously, but when I'm in this direction here, I could feel it stretch on my inner thigh. It's also stretching the outer part of my glute and hip here. And then I'm doing it here, that's stretching out the top part of my thighs, and then my lower back and glutes in the back. And so it's a nice and controlled motion. So I'm not going to do it too quickly, but this is also stretching, but in a dynamic fashion, which means I'm moving. I'm not just stretching and holding that position. So on this one, you don't really count per se unless you want to count how many times you go in a circle, and then you could reverse it. But I still typically do 10 to 12 per side, or you could still do it 30 seconds or so on each side. It's not going to be a high intensity stretch. Like some of the stretches, if you don't feel it, you're not really stretching. However, if you're feeling pain, then you're stretching too hard, or you have an underlying injury already, and you don't want to be stretching unless your doctor or a physical therapist has already told you that it's okay. But in the same time, you still don't want to feel pain while you're doing those kind of stretches. On this one, I'm obviously sitting on the floor. This is easier on the kneecaps and the knees in general if you do it while seated as opposed to standing. And I try to keep my legs straight. Now, if it hurts the back of the knees, you could bend your knees slightly and it's still going to stretch but protect the knee. So what I want to do is, if I can, with both hands, reach over to 1 foot or ankle as far as I feel comfortable. Now, if you could get both hands over, I haven't really warmed up much before starting this video. I'm still kind of cold. So that brings up the topic. You kind of want to warm up some before you stretch. So I should have walked around, did some jumping jacks, do something to warm up my muscles, because you don't typically want to stretch them while they're cold. Now right now, I'm not stretching as hard as I can, so it's safe, but if you're not warmed up and you stretch too hard, that's how people hurt themselves stretching, and it kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, so you don't like to stretch after that if you've got injured while trying to stretch. So once again, you do want to warm up some. I'm not stretching too hard right now, but you do want to go, once again, as far as you feel comfortable. Hold that 20 to 30 seconds. This is one of those static stretching parts that I was referring to earlier. And I would do 2 or 3 sets per side. And each time you try to stretch a little bit farther than you did before, once again, try to go with both hands. I'm not warmed up, so I'm not going to stretch as far as I can, but I could still feel a little bit on the inner thigh and the back of the hamstring. You could also go to the front and you just try to hold that position. And this is doing both at the same time. So once again, my knees are up slightly, partly due to I have healthy knees, but I'm not warmed up. But if you can, you keep your legs straight as you can keep them, once again, for safety's sake. But if it bothers your knees, just bend them slightly. That takes pressure off of them. And then you could stretch to the front. Once again, 20 to 30 seconds on that one. Another way to work a little bit of the part of the outside of the thigh here and the hip is bring the bottom of your foot towards the other leg, and then you could stretch to that same side, or turn and stretch to the side, but push this leg down. And once again, if you're super flexible already, you might not feel this one too much, or you might feel it in the lower back a little bit as you turn. Because some of these, it does take a little bit of balance. You don't think so at first if your balance is really good, but if you're an older individual or due to injury, you could still be younger and have bad balance. These might be a little bit more challenging because, once again, when your balance is good, you don't realize when things take extra balance until your balance is suffering. But I just turn this way, I can still feel it in this leg and the lower part of my low back on the left side here as I turn. So the same thing on the other side, tuck this foot in. And of course, if your knee's bothering you, just bring your foot farther out. That way it doesn't put as much pressure on the knee. If your knee's comfortable, then you're not hurting it. And then you turn on the other side. Once again, if you need to, use your other hand to push that leg down, and then you turn and look over your shoulder as far as you feel comfortable. Once again, for the breathing technique, you want to try to keep your breathing as normal as possible, and you don't want to hold your breath. So on this next exercise here, I'm going to lay down on my back. This is my right leg, so I'm going to pull my leg up, come across my body, trying to keep my shoulders down. I could even look in the other direction to really try to keep that shoulder down. And this one's going to be a good stretch for the hip, the glutes, the lower back. When I want to do the inner thigh on the same leg, once again, trying to keep the shoulders down, I open up as far as I feel comfortable, holding that position. Okay, so if I'm going to do the other side, I bring the leg up, go across, trying to keep this shoulder down because it's wanting to raise me up like so. So I look in the other direction. I could use my offhand to pull on my leg or the knee, whichever you can reach. Just give a little bit of assistance. Hold that stretch. Once again, keep the breathing as natural as possible. And once again, 20 to 30 seconds, switch sides, do 2 to 3 sets of each, and that'll be a good stretch for you. On this next one I'm going to show you is kind of a variation of a child's pose. I'm going to have my knees wide, toes together. So it's like my big toes are touching. I reach out in front, try to keep my head down, as far down as I feel comfortable. And by doing so, I'm stretching out my shoulders a little bit, my lower back, my inner thighs, my groin area, and I just hold that position. Nice, comfortable stretch. I could come forward, let my hips drop, keeping the hips open. Now, if your hips are very uncomfortable doing this, just bring the knees closer in together, and it becomes what I believe is called a cobra pose in yoga. And hold that position. It stretches out your abs and a little bit of the lower back, then come back. In this case, I have my knees closer together and just hold that position. All right, so far we've hit most of the body parts, but I want to hit my rear delts, which hits the shoulders a little bit more, and my traps, which is this muscle here. So I have one arm ahead. I pull across my body like I'm giving myself a one-arm hug, and it's stretching the rear delts. And depending on how hard I pull, it's still going to stretch out the trapezius muscle some. And once again, you just give yourself a nice good hug. Same thing on the other side. And once again, you could do all 3 sets back to back to back on one side, or alternating as I'm doing here. Of course, I'm not holding for the full amount of time. I'm just doing it short, so it shows you how to do it. But I'm using my offhand to pull across. Once again, stretches out the rear delt and some of the trap muscle, because the trap is a pretty large muscle. But this is a good stretch, and let me know what you think of it in the comment box down below. So here's the 10-minute stretching video that you asked for. If there's any other questions or video ideas or any types of exercise videos you'd like to see, just let me know in the comment box below or message me, and I'll be happy to help you out. All right, thanks. Enjoy your day.